What's going on, guys? Philip at Trade Genius. Going to cover Ethereum today and why we think we've got some decent upside ahead of us here. We've been pulling back and we have a double top here around 264 and have since pulled back quite a bit. So we're going to talk about this. Short-term trade swings have been there, but we're going to talk a little bit more long-term than say a 15-minute chart. The Ethereum community has posted their Ethereum Foundation Spring 2019 update. So we'll cover some points there and show you why there's some gas in the tank to get to these higher levels. All right, let's dive into this video and check that out.
Trade Genius.
Guys, if you're interested in the Moneymaker Indicator, which we're currently working on to actually make this thing even more accurate and resistant to, say, false positives on both the long and short side, and anybody that gets in on our package will automatically get upgraded to that new version of it. So hopefully we'll have that out shortly. But if you're interested in this indicator or the trading room, head over to tradelikeagenius.com and check out the specials we have going over there. All right, guys, so the Ethereum Foundation Spring 2019 update had a lot of information in it. Talks about the current 1.0 Ethereum infrastructure and then also plans for the 2.0 infrastructure. And really this comes down to scaling, right? That's been probably the biggest knock on Ethereum is, anytime there's been a flurry of activity on it, just basically lags out. Blocks take a while to confirm. So for a distributed computing platform, you really have a low tolerance for that kind of thing. So I think this is good. This basically shows us that development hasn't gone anywhere. It's very strong. I think a lot of times, much like Bitcoin, you'll see where you get to these periods where you think, well, Ethereum probably has some competition. Maybe there's a better mousetrap out there as far as a distributed computing platform goes. But I think what we'll find is that the strength of the Ethereum developer community as well as market participants is going to show itself, and I think Ethereum's got a lot of upside. So I don't think it's going anywhere. Of course, we're still early into this game, so there's going to be some long-term, shakeouts that'll happen, and they do have to perform. I mean, they will have to prove that they can run dApps on this thing without any type of lag and can handle a lot of bandwidth as far as computing resources. So we'll see how that shakes out long-term, but shorter term, and I'm talking weeks to months, I think we have a really good upside potential here. So what I wanted to do is take a look at the weekly chart. All right, guys, so here's the weekly chart. And, we've obviously come off the bear market, much like Bitcoin, have a rounded bottom, much like Bitcoin. What'll be a lot different, though, is the percentages gained, right? Because, like, for example, here from the bottom here, we've gone from $80 on up to $280, right? So over a 300% gain. You didn't see that with Bitcoin because the valuations are higher, but that's why this is kind of those situations that you want to start getting position in front of. So basically, I thought this was best laid out on a weekly chart, and what we see is that we've come up into this weekly area of resistance, and the reason why we highlighted this is because this was the last spot here back in August where we were able to put in a positive weekly move up in this area, and then the dump resumes. So when you have those little battles there, oftentimes when price comes back and revisits those areas, the first attack is usually resisted. And you also have a decent volume node here. So basically the way we look at this is kind of like the start of a cup and handle, I think is probably likely to play out. We see a lot of these formations in crypto. And in here, we're going to once we get past this level, so breaking above this 296 kind of gets you into this volume void here, and I think that most likely we're going to run right up into this area of congestion here. And so I think north of 440 to 480 I think is basically prime territory. So I think most definitely we could see 460. And as you can see with Ethereum, if you look at how fast it moved through these two volume nodes, you could close this gap in a week. So it's kind of one of those things where you want to be positioned, and because also Litecoin, these Ethereum and Litecoin, these things can move extremely quick. So this is kind of the bigger picture with the weekly on how things are shaping up. If you look at, say, the 4-hour chart, much like what we're seeing with Bitcoin, is consolidation. And so we're kind of within this triangle here or pennant of consolidation. And Yes, there are some vacancies here in the volume nodes. So yes, this could pull back. We might, could you see 211 first before this takes off? It's certainly possible. In fact, Bitcoin still needs to close its futures gap, so that it will weigh on this in terms of USD. But I'm very bullish all in this range. I think this is a good spot to start. At least, when you see a big move up, you want to try and buy the dips, buy the pullbacks, and certainly that's happened here. But I think we may be afforded another opportunity here as well. So any of these dips down in this area, I think, should be bought. And again, I think from this area here, you could see almost another 100% gainer. So lots of upside on this thing. And it's just a matter of being patient and letting the market cycle play out. So again, guys, keying in on the weekly, again, I think we should see at the worst case scenario some support down to 220, the 227 area here on the weekly. But once we get a close above this area here, above 293, north of 293 on a close on the weekly, I think is big time green lights for racing up into this 460 target area. So there it is. I think that has a high probability of playing out. Obviously, I think Bitcoin's going to play a part of it. If Bitcoin does go sideways, this could make a move. If Bitcoin's going to go down, then I think that's going to weigh pretty heavily on this. But if Bitcoin can maintain sideways or up a bit, I think that green lights the ability for ETH to do that. But right now, with this environment, any downward move on Bitcoin is going to drag everything down in USD terms. So that's the one caveat. But again, I think with Bitcoin filling, after it fills this gap and then makes it move back up, that's where I'm going to really key in on this dip going back up, forming this handle, completing this cup and handle, and then seeing if we can break through this volume void here. I think that's going to be a pretty explosive move when it happens. All right, guys, that's it for this video. Hope it helps. Please hit like and subscribe. Appreciate the views, and I will see you on the next video. Take care. Bye-bye.
Trade Genius.